In the 1950s, during the Cold War, the CIA launched a secret project called MK-Ultra, a program designed to study mind control, interrogation, psychological manipulation, and how to break or reshape human consciousness. It ran for 20 years in absolute secrecy. In 1973, the CIA director ordered almost all documents destroyed, but 20,000 pages survived in a financial warehouse by accident. Those pages were later declassified. What they reveal is darker than any fictional conspiracy. And every single part of what I'm about to tell you comes from Senate hearings, Church Committee reports, declassified CIA documents, surviving testimonies. This is the truth they couldn't bury. According to the US Senate, MKUltra sought to control human behaviour through psychological, chemical and biological means. US Senate, 1977. This wasn't one experiment, it was 149 subprojects, funded through fake charities and front organisations, so no one knew where the money came from. Their goals included breaking free will, creating amnesia, creating false memories, manipulating emotion and compliance, studying hypnosis, using sensory deprivation, testing psychedelics like LSD on unwitting civilians, attempting to create programmed behaviour. These are their words, not mine, all documented. This is the part that still shocks people. MKUltra was not carried out in secret military bunkers. It was carried out in universities, hospitals, clinics, prisons, private institutions, often without the knowledge of the staff or the subjects. They used students, hospital patients, military members, prisoners, everyday citizens. Some volunteered for medical studies without knowing MKUltra was behind them. Others didn't volunteer at all. Operation Midnight Climax. Yes, that was the actual code name. The CIA set up safe houses in San Francisco and New York. There, sex workers were hired to bring men to the apartments, where they were secretly dosed with LSD and observed behind one-way mirrors. This is documented fact, declassified, testified before Congress. They didn't hide it, they just hoped we'd forget. Frank Olson was a CIA scientist. After allegedly being dosed with LSD without consent at a CIA retreat, he began having severe psychological distress and wanted to quit. Days later, he fell from a 13th floor hotel window in New York. His death was ruled a suicide. Years later, government officials admitted the LSD dosing, but his family maintains he didn't jump. This case led to the 1975 Rockefeller Commission that first exposed MKUltra publicly. Why MKUltra was shut down officially. In 1973, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the destruction of all MKUltra documents. Why? Because Watergate was happening and he feared MKUltra would be exposed next. Most files were shredded, financial records survived by accident, making MKUltra one of the most documented, non-existent programs in history. Governments can run massive programs completely in secret. Ethics can be ignored if national security is cited. Psychological manipulation can be industrial scale. Data can be destroyed to hide wrongdoing. People in power can operate with zero accountability. What MKUltra showed us wasn't just what they did, it showed us what they're capable of. And that's why people still talk about it today, because once a government admits to experimenting on its own citizens, people start asking what else was buried. Officially, MKUltra ended in 1973 when CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all files destroyed. But let's be clear, it wasn't because the experiment stopped working, it was because they worked too well. The Church Committee and Rockefeller Commission didn't even happen until 2 years later, in 1975. By that point, the infrastructure was already buried, renamed and redirected, and that's exactly what happened. After MKUltra, a replacement program called MK Search was quietly launched. Its goal to perfect what MKUltra began: behaviour modification, memory erasure, remote influence, truth extraction. The project was smaller, harder to trace, and funded through even more fragmented contracts. Meanwhile, new programs with names like Artichoke, Bluebird, Stargate sprang up in different departments. Different names, same goals. Control the human mind. While MKUltra focused on individuals, Operation Mockingbird targeted the masses. It placed CIA assets inside newsrooms, TV networks, Hollywood studios, magazines and publishers to shape public opinion, bury certain stories and steer culture. MKUltra rewired minds, Mockingbird rewired the world. We know from the Senate reports that the CIA experimented on children, including those in state care, used prisoners without consent, targeted mental hospital patients, and in some cases, targeted their own agents. But here's what's buried in the documents. Many of those experiments were racially coded. Institutions with higher Black, Indigenous or immigrant populations were used more often. This wasn't just unethical, it was targeted. Yes, LSD was central to MKUltra, but not because they thought it would be a fun psychedelic. They believed it could shatter ego boundaries, dissolve personal identity, open subconscious pathways for suggestion, implant trauma that could be manipulated later. It was used alongside isolation hypnosis, electroshock and sensory deprivation. One test subject was dosed with LSD for 174 consecutive days. Another was forced into a medically induced coma for weeks with audio played on a loop. All of it real, all of it documented. Some survivors of MKUltra and its subprojects later came forward. Many shared eerily similar symptoms: memory loss, dissociation, fragmented identities, flashbacks to medical labs, strange dreams of rooms with lights and masks. In 1995, President Bill Clinton issued a formal apology for unethical government experiments, including mind control tests, but refused to pursue criminal charges. The excuse? It was a different time. So did they really stop? No, they just stopped telling you about it. Modern methods don't need LSD or safe houses. Now they use algorithms, subliminal programming, targeted trauma, social engineering, neurolinguistic triggers, virtual stimulation, media pattern reinforcement, reward, punishment cycles, and tech. They learned they no longer need to break your mind with drugs. They can just feed it the right sequence of code. They told you MKUltra ended. They told you it was a mistake. They told you it was another time. But the files still exist, the victims still remember, and the methods still evolve. So if you think the program stopped, maybe that's proof it worked. MKUltra is just the umbrella. What hides beneath it is more disturbing. MK Delta. This was the covert field application arm of MKUltra, used overseas. While MKUltra experimented in the lab, MK Delta deployed techniques in the real world, often on foreign diplomats, political prisoners, and uncooperative assets. Techniques included covert LSD dosing in enemy populations, enhanced interrogation, disruption of memory and sleep cycles, chemical sabotage to break mental stability. NAOMI partnered with the US Army to develop biological weapons and toxins for targeted mind destruction. Some records say they were creating substances to mimic natural diseases, but trigger psychiatric collapse. One substance was described in the files as a way to induce insanity without detection. All of this was real, filed, coded, documented. In 1977, during the Senate hearings, officials confirmed over 80 institutions were involved. Many participants were never informed they were part of the experiments. Some deaths occurred due to LSD and trauma. The United States government conducted illegal and unethical experiments on unwitting citizens, and even today we do not know the full extent. Why don't we know? Because most of the documents were destroyed, the survivors silenced, ignored, discredited. Who really paid for it? MKUltra was funded through fake foundations, shell corporations, front charities, university research grants, taxpayer dollars. One such front was the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, a fake charity used to launder money into universities like Harvard, Stanford, and Columbia. That means your grandparents' taxes may have unknowingly paid to traumatize their own generation. And the money trail wasn't just national. Some leads suggest MKUltra money flowed into Latin America during Operation Condor, Canada, Allen Memorial Institute, West Germany after World War II. This wasn't just American, it was global experimentation. One of the worst MKUltra atrocities happened in Canada. In the 1950s and 60s, psychiatrist Dr. Ewan Cameron, funded by the CIA through MKUltra, ran brutal therapy at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Victims included mothers with postpartum depression, people with minor anxiety, children. They were put into chemically induced comas, played loops of recorded phrases for days, given huge doses of LSD, administered electroshock therapy far beyond safe limits. Some lost their ability to speak, read, or remember their families. Many were never the same again. These are real people, and no one went to jail. Long before brain chips, the CIA was obsessed with remote control without tech implants. One 1954 MKUltra document reads, Can we alter perception without the subject's knowledge at distance through encoded stimuli? That's 1954. They were already experimenting with subaudible frequency messaging, visual triggers embedded in images, word pattern loops that caused confusion or compliance, hypnotic suggestion combined with real-world anchors. Today we call that algorithmic suggestion. Back then, they were just doing it in analog. The goal, control without consent. They don't need white coats and LSD anymore. They have social media algorithmic loops, trauma cycles in entertainment, mass spectacle and crisis overload, hyper-normalized programming through influencer marketing. Your attention span collapse, that was designed. Your sudden doom, scrolling, glitching, forgetting why you even opened the app. That's not a bug, it's a feature. They took what they learned and turned it into a self-administered control system. We've been told to forget MK Ultra. They said it was the past, a dark mistake, an embarrassing chapter. But the programs never stopped, they just changed costume. From the padded cell to the phone screen, from the white room to the feed, from the handler with a clipboard to the algorithm with your history. So before you say it's over, ask yourself, are you thinking your thoughts or the ones they planted? Monarch was never officially acknowledged, but it shows up in survivor testimony again and again. It's the next phase of MK Ultra, the trauma-based system designed to fracture the mind and create programmable personas called alters. The method induce extreme trauma, dissociate the core identity, embed commands into the fragmented alter, train them to perform on cue, and bury it so deep they'll never know it's there. It's not science fiction, it's what victims across decades describe in chilling detail. They talk about cages, electrodes, mirrors, triggers, programming scripts, animal masks at ritual abuse, doctors in lab coats giving them candy after torment. And it's always the same words. They made me forget until I didn't. Why are there MK motifs in cartoons? Split mirrors, alters, waking up, memory wipes, butterflies as friends, dissociative themes, talking dolls giving commands, repetitive spiral symbols, because early programming is the most effective, and they're catching kids before the soul anchor is fully formed. Some researchers believe children born to MK families are programmed from the womb with sound patterns, trauma events, and trigger toys. Every generation gets slicker, smoother programming, less blood, more colours, but the outcome is the same. Obedient minds, fragmented souls, perfect followers. If you think this is just about the past, you've missed the trap, because MK Ultra and Monarch were beta tests. What's next is synthetic loyalty via neural interfaces, behavioural reinforcement systems, microdosing without consent, frequency-based mood control, AI-assisted identity fragmentation, biofeedback training through headsets and games. You're not choosing this path, you're being steered into it. And once the fragments are locked to networked environments, the soul loses autonomy. That's the final trap. They say MK Ultra ended. They say Monarch never existed. They say we're imagining the glitches, the symbols, the switches, the code. But you've seen the eyes change. You've felt the cold presence in some performers. You've watched the rebirths that felt more like replacements. You've seen it everywhere, the Monarch butterfly. But why? Because the Monarch caterpillar literally destroys itself in the cocoon, liquefying its old form, before being rebuilt into something new. Just like trauma-based programming, just like alters, just like celebrities reborn after a breakdown. They're telling you what they did right in the open, but you only notice if you've survived it. You've seen them shaving their heads, glitching on live TV, speaking in different voices, wearing checkerboard rooms and butterfly motifs, collapsing and coming back changed. And they tell you it's mental health, it's rehab, it's a comeback. But what if it's a reprogramming cycle? What if these breakdowns are triggered resets when the system malfunctions or the alter bleeds through? We're not naming names on YouTube, but if you've watched the signs, you already know. The handlers, the symbols, the shows. This isn't fame, it's containment. And you know, this is about more than experiments, it's about the war for the soul. The ones who fractured first are now being used to fracture others. But the cycle breaks with you, you who remember, you who see. You who feel something wrong in the feed, in the fame, in the face behind the screen.